Good afternoon and welcome back to those of you who've joined me before. So my name is Sam, for those of you who don't know me, and today I thought I'd film in the garden. It's a beautiful sunny day. The crabapple blossom is out and I thought this is such a beautiful place to film. But we do have a bit of background noise. Apart from the birds, you may hear humming, which could be the bees that are all over the rosemary, which is also in flower. There are some streamers going in gardens locally, and there are a few aeroplanes that are passing overhead. So I hope we won't have too much disruption being out here. But I wanted to start off today with sharing my week, which has been a little bit stressful, not desperately so, but sufficient enough for me to think I'm going to tell you about it and talk about stress. So last Good Friday, I was expecting family to come for dinner and to stay overnight, and I had preparations to do. I like it to be nice for everybody. I like to decorate the home, the table, which I shared with you last week. And during the week, I managed to twist my hip quite badly, and I don't know how I did it. But by the Thursday, the day before they were due, when I had so much to do, it was really quite bad. And by the evening, I wouldn't stop. I wanted to get everything done. I was screaming each time I moved with the pain, and which is not what I would recommend to people, but I was that determined to get everything done. Fortunately, on the Friday when family arrived, I had a good night's sleep. It felt better, but not right. And being able to rest, being able to spend time sitting down with family, gave me a chance to get better. And now, although I can still feel it a bit, it's now, I would say, it's all right now. So that was leading up to Good Friday. And then on Sunday, Easter Sunday, my family had gone. I got up early, went out in the car, and my car broke down. And this has never happened to me before. In over 40 years of driving, it's the first time my car has broken. Well, first time I've broken down and needed roadside assistance. Unfortunately, it was early in the morning, so I was first on the list. So I only had to wait for about an hour and a quarter for the RAC to arrive. We had a few issues with getting the car back on the road, and it was sufficient to get me back home. So I had to make phone calls, to let people know I can't make it, and etc. And then, of course, we had the bank holiday weekend, and my car wasn't fixed until Friday, and I was anticipating it being fixed on the Tuesday with a mobile mechanic, and he didn't turn up. And I was phoning up during the day to say, when will he be here? Because I had places to be during the week, and so it was, how am I going to get there? Because I live in the countryside. We don't have I'm not even sure we still have a bus service, if I'm honest. We might have a bus that passes one way and back again each day, just once. But we're away from everything. And so I had to see what I could do. And I've been very, very lucky. There's a lot of people around here. I think they appreciate the difficulties we have living in the countryside. I had lists with people. People put themselves out for me, which is so incredibly kind. I'm so grateful. But I also don't like relying on others. It's my problem, that is. I think I'd be very happy to help somebody out. It's the joy of helping someone. But I find I don't like to keep relying on other people, and particularly as some of the trips I had to do were quite unsociable hours at times. So my husband loaned me his e-bike, electric bike, and so I used that, but the battery hadn't been used since last year, hadn't been fully charged, and it ran out on one day. I did 18 miles on the bike that day. And it's run out of battery, and they're pretty hard to pedal because they're so heavy, and I'm not used to cycling, so it's been a hard week, particularly with a bad hip, although I think that motion actually helped my hip. But by Friday morning, when I was out on the bike again, I could feel that the other hip was beginning to say I've had enough. So fortunately my car was back on the Friday, but all week I wasn't sure when I'd get my car back. and had to keep making arrangements. And this is where I felt most of my stress kicking in, not wanting to mess people around, not wanting to be late for things, not wanting to not be able to do my duties, if you like. So I decided, because the lack of knowledge about when my car would be ready, I decided I would go for the worst case scenario and prep everything based on the fact I wouldn't have it back until Friday. And so I made all my arrangements on that. I knew I'd have to cycle here and I'd have to cycle there, at what time, check the weather, all this sort of thing. And I did it. And I feel quite pleased with myself that I did it. And I'm so grateful for those people who've helped me as well. But it also triggered me to think that this week it might be a good idea to speak about stress, and a little bit about what it can do to us. I don't want to go into too much detail because this is for busy women, and I want to share some of the actions I take and some of the actions I know other people take that helps them deal with stress, either when they know they're going into a stressful situation or in the moment when a stressful situation can occur. So if we start off with, let's start with some food. So I learned a long time ago that certain stimulants like coffee, alcohol, sugar, they're not good choices to make if you're going to go and do a presentation. Now, presentations for me are not easy. I'm quite shy, and to stand up in front of people and speak is an ordeal. And so I have to prepare myself. And I know from experience, if I have a coffee that morning, I've done this thinking I'll be more alert and therefore that'd be great. But no, it really hypes up my anxiety levels and I'm more jittery and shaky and anxious. So I don't do that. I don't drink coffee when I'm doing these talks. Likewise, I don't have alcohol the day before I do a talk, because that again could heighten my anxiety. And sugar, I tend to avoid sugar anyway, but I'm aware of the foods I eat and how they may impact me if I've got something like that to do. Now, I also, in preparation for this, I like to use essential oils. As you know, I've spoken about those before, and I do love essential oils. And things like lavender and Roman chamomile are particularly calming. Sorry, just watching the bird fly past. But I use two blends, one which is called Balance, and that is marvellous for applying. Generally, people put it on the base of the foot to balance themselves for the day. I like to put it on my wrist or behind my ear if I do a presentation, and particularly because I know when I do a presentation, if I feel a little anxious, if I use my arms and gesticulate a little bit and waft my hand past my nose, I can smell that oil, and immediately that memory comes up, the limbic system, the ability of the scent to get through the olfactory system to the limbic system and trigger a memory is so quick. And so if I can relate that scent to being calm and at ease, I know I can trigger that emotion in myself by smelling the oil on my wrist. So I really strongly believe in finding something that you can relate to a calm situation. Another thing I like to do before going into something a little bit scary is power posing. Now, this was fascinating. I learnt this when I was a student because I found I had a bit of a panic attack going into clinic, and when we did clinical practice, and I tried power posing, and this really is strong, and it's been studied. Two groups of people they took. One group of people had to stand or sit in a very powerful position. So if I stand back a moment, so hands on hips like Wonder Woman, feet slightly apart, upright, chin up. You can raise your testosterone levels and your cortisol levels can go down. Now, testosterone is our confidence, it's libido as well and all other things, but it raises our confidence, our power. cortisol is our stress hormone, and we want that to be subdued when we're going into something. We don't want that anxiety to come forth. We want the powerful, confident, calm situation when we're doing something like a talk. Now, the other group were asked to sit in a very sort of cowed position, so with a very hunched over, hugging themselves as though they're scared of something happening. And they found the opposite occurred. The testosterone levels went down from their base. They were measured at base before they started, and their cortisol went up. They then, once they did that, they swapped the groups over. Now, the groups didn't know what they were doing, so it wasn't as if they could change the way they felt inside. They didn't know why they were being asked to do these things, and it went the other way. So it wasn't just one group was particularly confident and the other was particularly anxious. No, it changed as each group changed their position of stance. Now, this is really interesting because the messaging in the body is two ways. So your body can tell your brain how to feel, and your brain can tell your body how to feel. So, you know, if we're feeling mentally anxious, we'll probably start to step back and cower and, you know, hands up and stand in anxious positions. But if we say to ourselves, no, and stand in a powerful position, we can actually bring our cortisol down. And that has worked so well for me. And in fact, when we went into our final exams as a nutritional therapist, I had the whole class outside the exam room standing in power positions, and it was a good exam, that one. So they're the things I do when I go into a situation I know is going to be anxious for me. Now, what I find particularly good if I find myself in a situation that I wasn't anticipating, again, I can rely on essential oils. I've got one that's called Adaptive, and I found that's particularly good. So on the morning my father-in-law passed away, we had a call. I think it was about 4 in the morning. My mother-in-law phoned to say he's gone. We weren't expecting this. And we went over directly to see her, and I grabbed my oils. I had enough foresight to think about that, and I put the oil on my husband in the car, and I put it on myself. And this really helps you deal with a situation in the moment. Now, it's not readily available to everybody, so that's something I use, I love, and you can find another oil or blend that would work for you in the moment. But what really is good, which is open to everybody, is breath work. Now, this is something I learnt when I was studying nutrition, and it's still at the forefront today on how to sort of manage stress levels, but also other things to do with our health. So with breath work, the idea is to breathe in through your nose and then breathe out through your nose, but breathe out for a longer period than when you breathe in. So say you breathe in for a count of 5, breathe out for a count of 6, and you continue until you feel a calm returning. Now, to do this, it's good to practice this on a regular basis. Now, I have done in the past, but I'm not doing so at the moment, and I really ought to, because this is really powerful. It's good to practice, because in the moment when you're caught off guard and that stressful situation has kicked into place and it's all kicking off in front of you, knowing you can just breathe in and breathe out and do this practice, because it's automated, because you've practiced it again and again and again, is so powerful. If you don't practice and you think you can pull on it in the moment, it's not so easy. It's remembering, is it through the mouth? Is it through the nose? I can't remember. How many times do I practice it beforehand? And it helps balance all sorts of levels in the body from a health perspective anyway. So just to recap, really, stress, when it's prolonged, can be incredibly damaging. It can disrupt not only our hormones, and goodness knows that midlife we don't need any more upset with our hormone levels, but it's a steroid hormone, and it will dominate the raw material for those hormones, and we can become depleted in other areas. So our blood pressure can go up, There is a bone, I mean, it saves our lives. It's stress situations or feeling stress can save our lives, but we don't want prolonged periods of stress because our immune system can be down regulated, our digestion can be down regulated, and as I say, our hormones can be knocked for six. So being able to manage our stress, particularly being aware of it and knowing we can actually just bring ourselves down a bit with some of these practices is really useful. And avoiding those foods that can exacerbate it is key as well. So don't overdo the alcohol, because we see anxiety go up with that. Very careful on stimulants like coffee, and really avoid the sugar as well. When it comes to stress, they really exacerbate it. And of course, we know too much stress we can put weight on, particularly around the middle. So it's another good reason we need to manage our stress. And to finish on a good note, there is also science around dark chocolate. And over a 2-week period, people were given dark chocolate and their cortisol levels went down. So dark chocolate can also help us manage our cortisol levels. So that little dark square of chocolate that you want to have every day is still a good thing. So there you go. I wanted to finish on that high note of dark chocolate is still fine. And hope that some of these easy to do's, I mean, so many things one can do to help manage stress, but I want to really give the easy things, the ones that are easy to do, simple to do, cost nothing to do. A bit of essential oil costs money, but breath work doesn't, power posing doesn't. It might cost you a bit of embarrassment depending on where you are, but I just wanted to share these things with you so you can pull on these in your busy lives and make them work for you, and hopefully manage your stress levels. I managed to do mine. Oh, and one last thing, apart from the dark chocolate, do take some rest. If you do find yourself with prolonged stress, rest, because that helps you recoup as well. And make sure you are eating a healthy diet, because it can really deplete you of lots of nutrients. So good diet and a chill pill. I'm only joking, no pills, no pills. Thank you very much for listening. If you like this video, please share it with people you think might benefit. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care, bye.